Hello everyone, my name is Reverend Jay Shinseki and I am the minister here at the Salinas Buddhist Temple. I'd like to welcome you and take some time to introduce to you a little bit about our temple and its members and the history and a little bit about our beautiful altar here that we call the Onaijin. The history of the Salinas Buddhist Temple dates back to 1924 and it is intimately connected with the Japanese and Japanese American community here in Salinas Valley. It was first started by the immigrants who came here to the valley to farm the valley and started this Buddhist temple here in 1924. This year we are close to 100 years of celebration of being here in the valley, and in commemoration of that event we have done some restoration work of our temple, especially the Onaijin, or the altar that you see behind me. The Buddhist temple has operated for those 100 years with the exception of the years during World War II, when the Japanese in the valley were incarcerated into American concentration camps. And upon the return after the war, they reestablished their lives here in the valley and once again opened up the temple. I am one of several dozen of ministers who have served here at this temple over the years, starting back in 1924. And I also serve in temples in Watsonville and Monterey as well. So I cover the whole valley area as a minister. Most of the members here at the temple are Japanese and Japanese Americans who've grown up here in the valley. During the 60s, the early 60s, there was a second immigration of Japanese coming from mostly the Kagoshima area of Japan, who settled here in the valley and started nursery farming south of Salinas here. And so many of our members are now second and third generation of that new immigration from back in the 60s. Some of the important aspects of this beautiful altar that I mentioned was restored about 3 years ago. And when it was restored, this whole altar was taken apart. Everything was packed up and shipped back to Japan. And there, artisans laid new gold leaf, new lacquer, and then when it was all done, they came back, they brought it back from Japan and reassembled it. And this is why it looks so beautiful today. Now this altar, what it does, it represents the Pure Land. The Pure Land is the land where the Buddha Amida resides. So the central figure here is of Amida Buddha. Now Amida Buddha is a manifestation of wisdom and compassion. And so we like to share with our members and friends that wisdom and compassion is something that is always being extended towards us. And we're always the recipients of wisdom and compassion. And Amida represents that infinite wisdom and compassion. So the statue is carved out in wood with gold leaf. And you'll see that he has his right hand up and his left hand extended out. He's leaning a little bit forward, which means he's moving towards us, which represents this wisdom and compassion moving towards us. Now the right hand of the Buddha represents enlightenment. The left hand represents all of us, unenlightened beings. And these two are not separate, but they're the same. So out of this world of unenlightenment, we can find enlightenment, or peace and harmony, compassion and wisdom. And the Buddha is standing on a white lotus flower. And the lotus flower represents this idea of coming out of the mud and blossoming into enlightenment. So coming out of the world, this mundane world of greed, anger, and ignorance, comes this beautiful flower or enlightenment. So our experiences daily of our daily life are the very roots or the very sustenance that brings about enlightenment. So this represents the ability for every single human being to realize enlightenment. On the front of the Buddha is a table with carvings of birds, flowers, that represent this Pure Land. So in the sutra, or the words of the Buddha, he expresses or describes this Pure Land. And he describes the birds, the flowers, and the beauty of that land. And so we've tried to emulate that beauty here on our altar with those carvings. Now also you'll see here in front an incense burner. Incense burning is an important part of the ritual that all of our members participate in. And incense burning is a ritual that purifies our minds and our hearts, and it actually purifies the air as well, but it is symbolic in that as we come into this room and we hear the teachings of the Buddha, that we do so with a pure heart, a pure mind, or an open mind, an open heart, so that we can hear the teachings of the Buddha. Now you'll notice that there's two dragons on either side. One has its mouth open and the other has its mouth closed. The open mouth represents birth, the closed mouth represents death. So everything in between birth and death is signified by change, which is another significance of incense burning. As it burns, it turns to smoke and then disappears. So it represents this truth of impermanence. So if we embrace that truth, we really embrace each moment that we are alive fully, not recklessly, but with wisdom and compassion. And then we have over here the large bell that is used to begin the service and end the service. And also, this is where I would sit to chant the sutras of the Buddha. Above me is the transom that is gold leaf carved out of one piece of wood. Figures there are called the kinara, or the heavenly musicians. They're playing instruments, and they are greeting those who enter that Pure Land. And in the center is the Chinese characters Kenshin. Kenshin means seer of the truth. The founder of our sect, the Pure Land School of Buddhism, his name was Shinran. He was given this name, Kenshin, posthumously as a honor from the emperor. He's considered one of the greatest priests of Japan in the 12th century, and was given this name of Kenshin, again, seer of the truth. This is our front entrance, or the main gate to the temple. The grounds cover a large area of parsonage for the minister. You'll notice the main entrance has on either side two large brass lanterns. And these are traditional entrance ornaments for a Buddhist temple. Windows you see on the left are a depiction of the large bell that hangs in the courtyard of the temple. And to sort of give us that image of the bell, we've created the windows to look like the bell that hangs in our courtyard. And you'll notice the small little bridge going to the main entrance and the dry rock bed that's part of that. This tree is black pine that is taken care of by our members, who come and trim and take care of these trees so they have that wonderful, beautiful look to them. Our founder, his name was Shinran Shonin. He was a 12th century monk who was born in 1173 and died in 1263 in Japan. And this is a statue that commemorates our founder, and one of his writings is included in the base of the statue. I understand that this is a life-size statue of Shinran Shonin. He dressed simply with his hat, his walking stick, and his meditation beads. Shinran Shonin is well known in Japan and is the founder of the true Pure Land School of Buddhism, the largest school of Buddhism in Japan. Okay, this is our large bell that hangs near the parking lot of the temple. It's called the Bonsho. And this temple bell is one of the oldest in the United States. It has been hanging before World War II. was during World War II that the United States government incarcerated all of the Japanese and Japanese Americans into American concentration camps off the West Coast. But prior to their incarceration, the government asked that this bell be removed. They were afraid that the Japanese in the Salinas area would use the bell to call the invading forces of Japan to come into the Monterey area. Of course, we're so far from Monterey that they couldn't hear this bell anyway, but the members then lowered the bell into the belfry and stored it there during the duration of the war. This bell is rung on New Year's, at special services, holidays, and commemorations moments. That bell is rung. It's very large and very loud. It can be heard for several blocks away. John Steinbeck actually wrote about this bell. He mentions that you could hear the sound of the temple bell, and he was referring to this Salinas Buddhist Temple bell. Right next to our large bell tower, we have a large stone monument. This stone monument commemorates all of the members of the Salinas Buddhist Temple in its 100-year history who have sacrificed and made contributions to continue the legacy of the Salinas Buddhist Temple that allow us today to hear the teachings of the Buddha. Many of our community outside of the members of our temple are familiar with what we call the Obon Festival. It happens in July every year. And Obon is a wonderful festival that celebrates life. And it's filled with dance, with food, with drink, and lights. The story comes from a legend of the Buddha and one of his great disciples by the name of Moggallana, or Mokuden in Japanese. And Mokuden had lost his mother. Mokuden had great meditative powers, and one of his abilities was to go into deep meditation and be able to travel to other worlds. And in one particular moment, he sees his mother, and she is suffering in the realm of what we call the gaki, or the hungry ghosts. She's hanging upside down, she is starving, she wants water, she wants food, and Moggallana tries to give her food and water. However, each time it gets close to her mouth, it bursts into flames, increasing her suffering. And so he goes to the Buddha and he says, "What can I do to alleviate my mother's suffering in this realm?" So the Buddha tells him that he should honor his mother. He should conduct memorial service. He should make offerings to the temple and do this with food, with clothing, whatever he can give to the temple. And so he follows the instructions of the Buddha. He makes donations of food and clothing to the monks. He then holds a memorial service for his mother, and with that, his mother is released from this realm of the gaki. And so when he sees this, he dances for joy. And this is the very beginning of Obon. So when you come to the Obon festival, you will see dancing, you will see food, you will see drink, you will see lights. And all of this represents this story of Obon. And the important part of Obon is the festival, of course, but more than that, there is this recognizing and acknowledging our connection with our loved ones, our ancestors going 7 generations back. So a big part of our Obon festival is the memorial for our past parents and grandparents going back 7 generations. And so understanding that our connection with them runs very deep, we celebrate this life because this life is a gift that's been given to us by our parents and grandparents. And so to celebrate that, we dance, and we eat, and we drink, and we celebrate this life. So Obon, sometimes you'll hear it called Kangye, which means a celebration of life. So every July, we hope that you will take time to come and visit us at our Obon festival and dance with us, eat with us, drink with us, and celebrate life together as a community. We do welcome visitors to come attend our services, listen and learn about Buddhism, but also experience the ritual that goes along with these services. We don't discriminate, whether you're young or old, LGBTQ, whatever. We accept all peoples to come and be a part of our Sangha, we call it, our family. But we also invite you to come and just check it out and see what we're all about. We do have other activities besides our Sunday services. We have study classes that we offer. We have many different fundraisers that go on during the year, and so we welcome anyone to come and join us.